Smile, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, ASMC, for the gifts. Okay, we'd like to resume the public session. There is no report out of closed session. Hearing of the public. An opportunity will be given to citizens to address the board on matters of general district business. A 3-minute time limit will be allotted to each speaker with a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject unless extended by the majority vote of the board. At their request, members of the audience may address the board of trustees on the items during the board consideration of that item. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the board at this time? Come on up and state your name, please.
How's it going? So, I'm Jesse Espinoza. I'm the president of the speech and debate team. I'm just here to provide an update on the progress of the debate team so far. So I have a little speech. So.
Go ahead.
So, now, before they start, can we just agree that if they go over the 3 minutes, we won't interrupt them?
Is that okay with the rest of the board?
I'll try to keep it short.
Go ahead.
Okay. So someone from Merced College Administration referred to us, the Merced College debate team, to being synonymous to the McFarland USA team for the McFarland USA movie. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the movie or heard the story, it's essentially about an underappreciated and underfunded track team that through vigilant effort and against all odds, managed to climb its way up the ladder and be successful against teams with access to substantially more resources than they had. Now, this movie is based on a true story about a town not far from here. And essentially, that's exactly what we're trying to do for Merced College. We're trying to get a movie deal like they did, you know. No, but seriously, so we actually just started the debate team this year, and it's already shown to be such a worthwhile and educational activity. Whether it's teaching us better rhetoric, speaking styles, argumentative reasoning, or even just how to overcome an obstacle. Because trust me, there have been a lot. Much like Team McFarland, we share a lot of the same disadvantages. We don't have a lot of members on our team, and we don't have a firm structure within the college. And even most prominent is the lack of funding, which hinders our ability to even metaphorically enter the race and go to these tournaments. From the tournaments we've been able to go, however, we've been extremely successful. We managed to go to Merced College, the first Merced College debate tournament in October at Santa Rosa College. We managed to place first place and win against teams from many four-year universities and colleges all around the West Coast. Teams from Nevada, Berkeley, Santa Rosa, and Diablo Valley and BoT College all competed at Santa Rosa Invitational and more. Our next tournament we went to was the national level tournament. It was hosted at the University of Pacific and had teams from huge debate programs all around the nation. Teams from Point Loma, Santa Clara, Utah, Idaho, University of Pacific all had teams participating, trying to out-debate each other. My team and I, we managed to place third place in both parliamentary debate and extemporaneous speaking. One of our members also received an additional reward in which a debate team consists of 2 people, but individually they get ranked with speaker points on how well they presented their argument and reasoning. And one of our debaters managed to get recognized as the #1 speaker in individual speaking points for the entire tournament. So the challenge to create a successful debate team hasn't been easy, but luckily we've had a lot of help from everyone. We'd like to thank ASMC for giving us nearly $2,000 so far to help us go to tournaments and win awards like these from Merced College. We want to thank the deans, they've been especially helpful. They help us understand the paperwork process and guide us to proper resources and really just make the whole pathway a whole lot clearer. We also want to give a thank you to our coaches, Professor Patterson and Dr. Fong, who really have made this whole thing enjoyable and a successful team. They donate tens of hours every week to help us be successful, whether it's in school meetings, helping us tone our skills, or on their own time at their house, creating binders full of information for us to read that comes straight from their own knowledge. We really couldn't have been successful if it wasn't for the massive amount of time and energy volunteered by our coaches. So thank you. We also want to give a big thank to just everyone that's kind of helped us. So a couple names would be the president of the college, Chris Vitelli, the VP of Instruction, Dr. Brian Ellison, VP of Student Services, Mike McCandless, the VP of Administrative Services, Joe Allison, and the Board of Trustees overall. We hope in that in the future, with the dedication that Merced College staff has shown, that the Merced College debate team can be widely known and successful debate team around the nation. And then, maybe then, through vigilant effort and dedication and teamwork from all the units of the college, maybe then we can get our movie deal.
Can I ask you to bring your trophies up so we can take a look at them?
Oh yeah, so
That's a lot of work to just put them on a shelf. We want to see them.
yeah, so one of those is actually Merced College got ranked. So they kind of take your overall record, how your students prepared, and I don't know how they exactly figured it out, but we got ranked first place in small schools for University of Pacific. So we got, and the director of the tournament actually kind of gave a little announcement saying how this is Merced College's first year, and we've already shown that we can hang with Berkeley and Santa Rosa and all those big four-year universities.
Can you tell us the name of the people who were up here with you?
Yeah, so my name's Jesse Espinosa. This is Gustavo Garcia. We have Jerry Vu in the back, Jasmine, I don't know your last name, Reeves Thomas in the back, if you want to stand, and then our coach, Professor Patterson.
Thank you so much, and we are very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't forget your
And don't forget to get your trophies when you're sent. Can we get the other two
Jasmine?
students up here?
Professor Pettis.
So there's an interesting story. So one of our struggles, so on the first Merced College tournament, we were there for about an hour and we had to send a kid to the hospital because that kid was me. So I went swimming and for some reason I took a stroke and my shoulder got dislocated and like my bone was all sticking out. And we had to go to the hospital. I got released at like 3 in the morning and then we had to go compete at 5 in the morning, so we were like, good. We had to do it first. That was over.
All right. Let's give them a big round of applause. And we will be known by their success.
Excited because they'll be able to advocate for our valley and our issues so well.
Right. Okay, after that, is there anybody else who would like to come and address the board? Okay. Not seeing any, we'll move on to item 6A, the superintendent president, no, that's not the report. Additions and/or changes to the agenda? All right, moving on to item 7, presentations. Student of the month.
Hi, my name is Dr. Molina. I work for the DSPS program here at Merced College, and I'm here to announce our Student of the Month. Michael Clamp, my student here, he's the November 2017 Student of the Month. Michael is an Atwater native. He attended Atwater schools all the way through his graduation from Atwater High. He attended 2 vocational schools in the airline industry and has spent 20 years of customer service in the field. After encountering a serious health issue, he decided to return to school in 2015 with the intention of acquiring an AA in Social Behavioral Science and International Studies. He works very hard and maintains a 4.0 GPA. I am very impressed how hard he works. He's very dedicated to his family, who's here tonight, his wife, his daughter, and he's very dedicated to his studies as well. He has changed his majors and will graduate with an AAT and plans on transferring to one of the California State Universities to study geography and either meteorology or earth sciences. He's very excited to put his degrees to good use working overseas and helping to create better lives for those who are less fortunate than he is. When I first met Michael, his father brought him to my office, and I remember his dad saying, you know, we're going to try this as an experiment. We'll see how it's going to work out. And you know what? It turned out to be a very successful experiment, as you can see.
I just like that economics.
Michael's a good example for other students to believe in the impossible and to never give up, even when something bad happens to you. Never give up. His father was a professor here. I know some of you may know him, Richard Clamp. He taught math. He taught here for 17 years. His father passed away sometime last year. And in his father's honor, Michael has established and maintains a Richard Clamp Memorial Fund that sponsors scholarships for students who are enrolled in the EOPS and DSPS programs. Michael has also formed a DSPS peer support group, and his GPA was recognized by EOPS in both the spring of 2016 and 2017. Among other activities, Michael mentors peers and fundraisers for the Richard Clamp Memorial Fund. He travels to his wife's native country, the Philippines, and his interest is in book collecting for underprivileged schools, and this stems from his appreciation of the many books and services available at the Merced College Library. He would like to continue sharing his appreciation and knowledge of books and technology with other students in underserved countries. And so I'd like to present this award to Michael, who really deserves it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Michael. Say a few words, please.
I want to thank the entire school and staff for the opportunity for this, and I want to especially thank Dr. Molina here for the recommendation. You know, when I came here, it was truly an experiment. When I started here, a health issue, basically for a short term, left me my speech. It was very difficult for me to talk and comprehend, and it was an experiment. You know, through assistance from instructors and classmates, I learned how to speak again and get the knowledge I needed, and just kept myself going. And that's been, and again, I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity. It's very important.
Congratulations again, and thank you for being part of Merced College. Moving on to Guided Pathways.
I'll introduce the speakers who are going to be giving the presentation, but I do want to let the board know that part of what you're hearing tonight, we talked about in the special meeting on the trends nationwide to focus on guided pathways. Also, that as you see in your board packet, we are going to receive approximately $1.3 million over the next 5 years as a part of the statewide initiative to implement guided pathways. And so Dean Vince Piro and Dr. Regina Coletto have been working really as co-chairs to assist us with the efforts and the requirements that are being requested by the state. They're going to share a bit of that with you, but also give you an overview of guided pathways. So we'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you. So we're basically here tonight just to provide you with as President Vitelli mentioned, with an overview of guided pathways and the process that Merced College is going through in order to receive these funds.
So Guided Pathways provides all students with a set of clear course-taking patterns that promotes better enrollment decisions and prepares students for future success.
One of the other components of it is just making sure that we're integrating all of our student support services. Right now we have a lot of student support services. We do a great job of having all of those but they're also very siloed still. So the integrated plan, which you'll hear more about later today, is a great example of integrated planning and integrating different support services on our campus. So there are 4 pillars of Guided Pathways. Guided Pathways comes out of Complete College America, and so these 4 pillars are basically to create clear curricular pathways so that they're linked to employment, further education, such as our transfer students. Also helping students to choose and enter their pathway so that when they come into Merced College, they have the knowledge about what they actually want to pursue as a major or a career as their end goal. They're not trying to kind of take forever, as we say, aimlessly wandering. We want them to be guided on that pathway to exploring. Helping students to stay on their path. So once they choose that path, actually allow them to know what they need to do to stay on that course. And then the last part is actually linked to something that we hold near and dear to our hearts, ensuring that learning is happening with intentional outcomes. We're already doing that on our campus with student learning outcomes in our program review process.
So there's some key elements to Guided Pathways. And if you look at the slide, you'll see that we already implement many of these elements, and in fact, we're scaling up many of them. For example, programs that are fully mapped out and aligned, we have many of those kind of programs. Proactive academic and career advising, we already do that on campus to some degree. Early alert systems, we're developing an early alert system and have had several in the past. Redesigning, integrating basic skills and developmental education classes, we've discussed with you in the past how we have, in fact, created accelerated classes that lead more quickly to college level classes for our students. Structured onboarding process, including improved placement tests and co-requisite instruction, use of multiple measures and things like that. We're already on that path. And instructional support and co-curricular activities, we have many of those, such as the Interdisciplinary Literacy Center, which we've discussed in the past. So all of these, we're really ready to scale up, and this Guided Pathways grant would allow us to scale up many of the things that we're already doing. We're on that path.
So what does it mean for our students? The hope is that it means less confusion, more clarity about what they actually need to do to complete. So within their course taking patterns, when they need to complete all their student services as far as seeing counselors, completing their FAFSA each year, so on and so forth. So again, it integrates the entire system from start to finish for them to be able to reach their goal and know exactly what they need to do from day one in order to do so. Again, more guidance from counseling early in their journey so that they understand, again, what path they're putting themselves on, what that means, how long it'll take, and what they need to do. It also shows, again, nationwide, there's a greater likelihood of completion. That goes to some of the points that Vince just made about improved placement, which we're already on that path, the basic skills and developmental ed reform, and then reducing unit accumulation. This is a huge issue for our students. They only need 60 units to transfer, they only need 60 for a degree, yet they're often accumulating well over 100 units, and for no true good reason. So helping them to, again, be on that path.
So in 2017, leaders allocated $150 million for this project through Prop 98 funds. Dr. Vitelli has already told you how much Merced College is likely to get because of this. In fact, we've received a letter. All 114 community colleges, in fact, are eligible to receive this funding. We just have to follow certain steps in the process to get this funding, and we'll talk more about that right now.
So the first step that we already took was a small group of us went to a required regional workshop on October 2nd. You can see the participants there. We also now are working on our next step, is what we're currently doing, which is to complete our self-assessment. So Vince and I have been put in charge of ensuring that the self-assessment document gets completed. The Student Equity Committee, which is a large cross-constituent group, has been named the committee to kind of be the work group, the main work group. Vince and I have gone around to all the constituent groups on campus, many of the master planning committees already, and have shared our work on the self-assessment and are working to collect feedback before the December 23rd date. Once that's completed, they have not yet released, but the third step is for us to complete our multi-year work plan, and you can see that's due at the end of March of this next year. So again, we don't have the template for that yet, but we're expecting it any time.
So the allocations begin in April of 2018 when we've released the first installment of the funding, and then the funding is released once you reach certain milestones over the next several years. So that, and our goal is to basically create the multi-year plan and then follow that plan.
And that's all we have for you. We just have a slide. If anybody does have feedback and wants to get in touch with us about any of this process, we are there. Any
All right.
questions?
Any questions from the board?
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
So my first question is the slide immediately before this one, slide 8. Since the money's getting allocated in sort of in waves, right? If we happen to not meet any part of the future plan, are we liable to refund the money that we've already gotten so far under the program?
To my knowledge, we do not have that kind of information yet about the funding. All we have received is our amount, which is approximately 1.3 million over 5 years, and the percentages that will be released each year. Other than that, we don't have the kind of finer details, if you will, just like the work plan template has not been released yet,
Okay.
which we're very interested to see.
Most likely what will happen, we'll get the funding each year. If we're not meeting requirements, they'll cut the funding off.
Okay.
Now, that being said, I can speak very confidently because we're already putting a lot of these programs in place that we will easily meet the requirements of the state. We have recently engaged with Dr. Rob Johnstone, who is a leading expert nationwide on guided pathways. In fact, he wrote a lot of the language for the state bill in California. We're part of his national cohort. He was on campus this past week, and he is going to help guide us through that process along with our new director of guided pathways using these dollars. And so in many ways we're ahead of the curve already, but to answer that question, I think they would just cut off future years instead of asking us to return dollars.
Okay.
And the Chancellor's Office has a vested interest in making sure that all community colleges use the dollars effectively, because the last thing they want is legislators approving laws and us not using those dollars effectively. So.
Right, and my second question goes to slide number 3, which was, it was this, sort of the training that helps students stay on their path. And my question is, it comes from personal experience. When I started Merced College, I thought my path was going here, and it ended up going here. And part of what helped me realize the path I was on is that I was sort of free to take classes that I thought were interesting, even though they didn't necessarily fit my major at the time. So are students still going to be able to explain and say, look, I may not want to be a history major, I think I kind of like science, it doesn't really fit in, I'd like to try this.
You will still be able to, there will still be general education classes that you would take. I describe it as different between exploration and wandering, right? And many of our students kind of wander from class to class. What guided pathways will allow them to do is explore classes in a purposeful way, right? And they'll receive a map that says, these are our recommendations. If you want to be in this field, follow these, take these courses here. Doesn't mean they can't explore other things. We just don't want them wandering, again, 100 units.
Yeah.
And what's sad is, so many times I've had students come to my office say, I have 100 units and I still can't get a degree. Or I just got a letter from the college, I applied for graduation and I'm 2 courses short. Well, that, shouldn't happen. So this will structure that exploration more.
Okay. But students can still say, I think I made the wrong choice by choosing history, I want to choose math. And
Yeah, the choices would not be removed for students. There would simply be clear guides for students that knew that they wanted to do this psychology major. Here's what you need to do to get your psychology degree or to be able to transfer to a CSU or a UC to major in psychology within 2 years, if you will, so that way they can reach their goal and know exactly what they need to do so.
I think the title's perfect, guided pathways, not forced pathways.
Yeah,
One of my original concerns too. But in reading, and when you read, if you have the book, I think you do, it explains that clearly.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Hold on. Go ahead, Trustee Ochoa.
So my son experienced a little hiccup at his community college, and he was a college athlete and ended up with 4 units of college athletics because he played 2 years. And he was actually short 2 units to be able to transfer. He had 60 units at the end of his 2nd year, but he was short 2 units at that point, and it really affected him on the college he wanted to go to and where he applied. So this guided pathways is going to resolve that issue. So I'm very glad to see it come to fruition here.
It's kind of integrates our like 15 to finish initiative, for example. It's not just taking any 15 units, which goes to your point, is taking the right 15 units, and in this case, the
Exactly.
right 60 units need to be, and that's why the maps will be so important to a student's success.
The whole kind of gearing up of the community colleges from the legislature is to make it more efficient for students to graduate.
Okay, Trustee Ochoa, can you clarify that it was not Merced College?
I'd be more than happy to. Our chair is correct. It was not Merced Community College.
All right.
College to the south of us. Not too far away.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
I do have.
Oh, hold on, Regina. Hold on, Vince.
With these guided pathways, is our curriculum and our scheduling going along with, of classes and courses? Are we keeping up with how we're making sure we have those classes available within that 2-year time frame?
That would be part of the overall plan, right? As we develop that plan, we'll be working with, it's really a plan that works with instruction and student services together, so that you're right, if a student needs a class, it's there for them, right? That will be part of the overall plan. How do we do that?
Okay, Regina and Vince, you can sit down. Thank you very much. And now on to constituent reports, academic senate.
All right, so Academic Senate's been involved in guided pathways. They'll be a major part of it, as well as like she said, the student equity and success committees and stuff. In addition to working on guided pathways, we've been working on several administrative procedures. The one on program discontinuance that's coming to you tonight. Other ones that we're working collaboratively with administration and correcting is like distance education. One that will be coming forward to you either in December or January, depending on timing, will be a new one on credit hours, which was required by legislation changes that now states what hours students are expected to do work outside of class. So students will have a better understanding of what they're signing up for in terms of hours. So we've been working on all of those. Our curriculum committee is working with the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Office of Instruction to change over to Illumin also for curriculum. So we've been working on all of those. At our last Academic Senate meeting, which will be November 30th, we'll elect the next Senate President. They'll shadow me for all of next year, and then they'll take over in about another 1.5 years. Maybe we can get them to go sooner. And then December 7th will also be our last curriculum committee meeting, where we elect the next curriculum chair that'll start next August. So that's pretty much, there's other things, but those are the major things that we're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. MCFA.
Good evening.
Before you start, do you think you'll need more time?
I believe 3 minutes will be enough. I'll talk fast. So, good evening. First, I wanted to say that I'm very excited to see our tentative agreement on your agenda. Finally, it's been a long road. So I do hope that you will approve that. And then MCFA is actually meeting on Friday to vote on openers for the next round. So the fun never ends. My first piece of news is from myself. So I had the pleasure of attending, along with Professor Christy Rigg, the National Conference of AMATIC, which is the American Mathematical Association of Two-Year Colleges. They had their national conference in San Diego this past weekend. Professor Rigg gave a short presentation on how to run an integration bee, which is a really popular thing that she started here in 2014. There were over 1,700 community college math faculty in attendance. I was telling my classes that we were kind of a rowdy bunch. And we all came away with a lot of useful ideas. I used one of them in my class today. So that was good. This is something I have to pass along from the Community College Association Fall Conference, which took place last month. One of the items that was presented was a document from San Bernardino Community College District called Guidance for Handling Immigration Law Enforcement Requests. And I had written myself a note to share this with you, the board, at this meeting, and then I looked at it and I said, well, this is too long for me to read to them. So I printed it out, and I'm just going to hand it to President Vitelli, and which I would have done when we met last week if I had thought of it, but anyway, there it is. That's the state of my life lately. I write myself notes, and then when I read them, I only partly understand what I was thinking at the time that I wrote them. From Professor Joey Merritt, who unfortunately I think took off. She shared this with me last month. She was transferring the Student of the Month files from a very small notebook to a very large notebook. And she says, I have to confess that I haven't looked at any of the past years, but at the top of the 2004 stack was our very own Leanne Thornhill, who was our first Student of the Month of the 2004-2005 academic year. She says, I assume it was October, but the files don't say. She is now one of our part-time librarians. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much. I'll hand you the written copies of my slides, and I'll hand this to President Vitelli.
Hey Patrick, I was hoping that it was going to be like the secret student of the month had been me when I was a student here. I mean, that would have been maybe better.
I will have to ask Joey to examine those files a little more and see who else might be hiding in there.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, moving on to Classified Senate.
Good evening, I'm Diana Hall-Fisher, President of Classified Senate. We are continuing with our drive to promote professional development and participation. We're working with CSEA to kick around a few ideas for that. We have also started planning our Classified Professional Development Day, and thanks again to the college for allowing us the general fund allocation for professional development, as we're using some of those funds for the day, and we have some exciting things going on with that, which I will present in more detail once they're finalized. The Vice President and I were able to attend the Northern Gathering of Senates to network with other classified senates in Northern California, and we had a very good day and talked a lot about participation and shared governance. That's it for now, but there'll be plenty more coming, I'm sure.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Moving on to Classified School Employees Association, CSEA.
Good evening. My name is Teresa, and I'm the president of CSEA, and I wanted to share my appreciation with you on the move of the time for the board meetings, and hopefully with discussion, you guys will slide them a little bit sooner in the afternoon. I wanted to also let you know that we are also taking nominations tomorrow at our membership meeting for a new officers, which will be, one will be the president and vice president. So that's our update. So have a good evening.
All right, thank you, Teresa. And now, moving on to Police Officers Association. No report from the Police Officers Association. Okay, Management Association.
All right, good evening. I'm Shelley Connor, and I am the president of the Management Association for this year. We, as a management team members, we've been engaged in a number of campus-wide initiatives. Many of our managers have been involved with listening sessions with the College Brain Trust organization that's here to help us draft our educational master plan, so we've been happy to participate in that informational process. Well, many managers also, along with our classified professional and faculty colleagues, attended a forum on guided pathways, and that was a really productive time, I think, for all of us to reflect on how we can provide leadership in our own respective areas to help focus ourselves continuously on student success. Those forums are actually an excellent professional development opportunity for us all to learn how we can work together towards that common goal. We've been working on working together in a collegial environment, as you know, here at Merced College, and something that our Vice President's Council and our Student Services Council has started to do is that we're all meeting together once a month, and I think that those monthly bringing together of both the student services and instructional part of working with our student body has been very helpful for all of us to be engaged together in those efforts. At our last Management Association meeting, we were able to learn more about the history of the Field of Honor that was here last week, all week long, and really enjoyed that presentation by our colleagues in that effort from the Merced Sunrise Rotary. And this coming Thursday morning, we are looking forward to hearing from the Mayor of Merced, Mike Murphy. So I'll say that really fast. Mayor Merced, Mike Murphy. And I'm looking forward to hearing from him about initiatives going on around our city and how Merced College participates and engages in that effort. Perhaps upcoming in the spring, we'll have an opportunity to hear from public officials from Los Banos as well. So we're working together, we're coming together around student success, and also learning more about how we can be engaged in the improvement efforts that are happening all around Merced City and Merced County. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shelley. That was almost a tongue twister of Mayor Merced, Mike Murphy. Okay, ASMC. Cody.
Good evening, board. As always, student government, ASMC, is busy at work. This weekend, Friday through Sunday, 6 of our members will be attending the Student Senate for California Community Colleges General Assembly, where we'll be voting on resolutions that could impact campuses statewide. Our student trustee is actually going as our delegate. Today at our meeting, we actually had a very long discussion on our associated student organization stances on those resolutions to inform our delegation. So Merced College will be represented well there. Hopefully there's some good things that come out of that. Our CEO Club, the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, will be attending a Connect Intuit QuickBooks conference for business professionals this Wednesday through Friday. So that looks good for them as well. Earlier this month, our CEO Club actually hosted County Supervisor Lee Lohr here on campus. And she was talking to students about participatory budgeting, which is essentially letting constituents vote on how they want funds spent. I think that's a great idea, so we were happy to host her. On top of that, as always, we're working on advocating for and promoting sustainability here on campus and throughout the community, as well as open source course material and textbooks for all students. That's a big barrier to education that students face, and I believe that as an institution, we should be looking into open source course material. Also, our food pantry has been up and running. It's actually very successful. We serve students every day. It's located in the student government office, and we've actually been able to send food to Los Banos campus as well, and we want to keep doing that to help their food pantry grow over there. And later this month, November 30th and December 7th, we will actually be having a training on parliamentary procedure and the Brown Act. We're hiring a parliamentarian who actually works for the Student Senate of California Community Colleges, and that'll be in Lesher 111 from 2 to 5, and we'd actually like to invite the board and administration, faculty, anyone who's interested to attend that. I think that's helpful for everyone, not just student government.
Say those dates again.
November 30th and December 7th. And that one I don't know which is first. I can email you and let everyone know.
That'd be good, and I'll send it to them.
Of course. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cody. And by the way, thank you on behalf of the rest of the board members for all the gifts. We're not used to receiving gifts.
You have your Form 700 to fill out?
It's not over $25, right?
Okay.
Probably is, actually.
No, just say no.
Okay, all right, moving right along before we get in trouble with the IRS. Item 9, consideration of consent agenda.
Trustee Gutierrez, before the board takes action on the consent agenda, we do have an item on the consent agenda that by law we should say publicly. So with your permission, I'd like to turn over to Dr. Mike McCandless. It's related to the personnel agenda.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening. So as you're aware, and as we're becoming accustomed to, educational administrators now are introduced, voted on separately with their salary and step placement. So we have Dr. Lanita Cordova, who we're recommending for the position of Dean of Student Equity and Success. She's actually here with us tonight, so I'll ask her to stand up and raise her hand so you see who she is. The recommendation is step 3, $116,192. And a little bit of background about Dr. Cordova is she comes from MJC, where she is currently the director of their DSPS program. But she has had previous responsibility and oversight for a number of programs that are related to student equity, such as veterans. Dr. Cordova herself is a veteran who joined the Armed Services coming right out of high school, I believe. Served with the Armed Forces for quite a while and used the GI Bill to obtain her both her graduate level education and her bachelor's education. So a good model for our students. She's also worked as a counselor and has worked for San Joaquin Delta. So she has quite a bit of experience in the local community, and we believe she'll be a very strong addition to our ranks.
All right, thank you. So let's go back to the item. Can I entertain a motion to approve?
I so move.
Okay, moved by Trustee Ochoa, second by Upton, Dr. Upton. Okay. So let's vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Are we voting on the approval of the entire consent agenda?
The entire consent agenda.
Okay, I vote aye.
It is approved, and Dr. Cordova, welcome to Merced College.
President Peters?
Yes.
I left my purse in the closed session room, so I'm gonna go get it. Oh, you got it already? Where? Oh, no. It's safe.
Was there any money in it?
There used to be. I mostly care about a pen. I need a pen.
Here.
There's no pen in your swag bag?
Yes. Oh.
Ah.
I just saw the lanyard, so.
Okay, well, let's move on to, and at some point maybe we can have Dr. Cordova give us a little synopsis about your background and all that. And I know you got from accounts, you gave us a little brief background, but I don't think we're not going to do it right now.